Hello and welcome to Elective Classes. My name is Sanjay Sinha and today I am going to discuss this poem No Men Are Foreign. This poem has been taken from class 9 book Beehive, which is written by James Kirkup. In this video I am going to cover about the poet, then I will give you little background of the poem. After that I will explain this poem line by line, and this video is going to be completely in English. After that, I will give the theme and central idea of this poem, and then I will discuss some poetic devices which have been used in this poem. So let's get started. If we talk about James Kirkup, he was an English poet and he wrote over 45 books, including autobiographies, novels, and plays. And he generally emphasized the idea of love and peace. You have to underline it because this poem, No Men Are Foreign, has also some elements of love, peace, and brotherhood. If you look at other works of James Kirkup, like No More Hiroshima, One Man's Russia, so all these works of James Kirkup has some element of love, peace, and brotherhood. Now, coming to the background of this poem, see, you have to understand the background so that you can interpret the poem. If you will know the society of the period when the poem was written, if you will understand the condition, social condition, economic condition of the time when this poem was written, then you will be able to understand, you will be able to interpret the poem in a easy manner. Okay, so this poem was published in 1966. Okay, did you get that? This poem was published in 1966. Now, think about all the things happening from 1940s, because this poem was written in 1940s. There is no specific date mentioned, but this poem was written in around 1940s. So think about all the things which were going on from 1940s to 1966. See, 1940, as we know that the Second World War going on in 1940s, and when the Second World War end, a race began to become the most powerful nation in the world, and this race led to the Cold War. See, one side it was Russia, that is known as USSR at that time, because it was the group of so many countries. You must have read in your history books. So USA and Russia, they were the powerful nations and they wanted to be the most influential country, most powerful country, most dominant country in the world. So the race began. Now this race resulted in the Cold War. You have to underline it. Let me underline it in red color. This resulted in Cold War. So now you can imagine that how the poet would be thinking, what were the minds in poet was going on, that just after the Second World War, what happened? A new war started, that was Cold War. Although in the Cold War, there was no real fighting, there were no weapons or ammunitions involved, but Cold War in somehow was impacting in the global economy. So the poet is worried about this, and that is why the poet writes this poem, No Men Are Foreign. Okay, so this was the one thing that was going on during 1940s and after that. Now the second point is that during 1940s to 1960s, what we see, it was the period of post-colonization. Post-colonization means at that time local people, for example, in India also colonial power was dismissed. A new power came, right? Democracy came in India. In the similar way, there were so many countries where post-colonization was going on. It means that they were throwing up the colonial powers, the colonial power which was based on the racial superiority. So now you can think all the scenario of 1940s to 1960s, that what were going on there. James Kirkup had seen the war, Second World War, and its impact. That is why he wants to give a message to the people that we should not fight. We should never start a war because we all are equal. We are not different. That is why the title of this poem is No Men Are Foreign. I hope you got the idea of the background of the poem. Before I start giving explanation of this poem, I want you all to think about this sentence which is written here. See, Socrates has said this sentence: I am a citizen not of Athens or Greece, but the world. See, Socrates, as you know, that he was a great philosopher. Okay, so he is making a point that he does not belong to Athens or Greece or any particular geographical area. He belongs to this earth. He belongs to all the world. So this is the message that you have to keep in mind when you go through this poem. Okay, so now the first stanza is here. You have to listen carefully that the first line itself starts with the word remember. Remember, no men are strange, no country is foreign. So focus on the first line. That why the poet has said, remember, no men are strange. See, poet knows that we all somehow know this, that we all are like the same. But we forget it that we all are equal. That is why poet is trying to make us remember. Poet is trying to remind us that no men are strange, men are strange, no country is foreign. It means all the people on this earth, they all are equal, they are not different from each other. We cannot distinguish anyone. Why the poet says this? See, you have to keep in mind that why the poet has said this. Remember, in the first sentence, and the first word is the remember. Why the first word is remember here? Because poet wants us to remind, to remember. Poet wants us to remember that everyone on this earth has equal right. Why? Because beneath all uniforms, a single body breathes. This one you have to underline here, that beneath all uniforms. It is a metaphor. I will discuss this in the poetic devices section. Okay, beneath all uniforms. Uniforms here symbolizes the military person or the army. See, every country has its own army. Let me tell you. Suppose here it is Pakistan and here it is India. Okay, Pakistan has also army. Suppose this is the army of Pakistan and this is the army of India. Okay, so under this Pakistani army and under this Indian army, who are there? They are common people. There are so many common people, right? There are so many common people whom they are protecting. See, army are protecting us. In the similar way, the Pakistani army are also protecting the Pakistani common people. So in this sentence, come to this sentence, that beneath all uniforms means beneath all the armies, either it is the army of Pakistan or India. Beneath all the armies, a single body breathes. Single body breath means the body breathes, that is the common people. They all are common people and they do not want war. See, the army uniform can be different. Indian army has different uniform. Pakistani army has different uniform. But the people who are under them, all the common people, they all are same. They all are equal. They all just want uh, to live their life. They want good education. They want electricity and good living standard. That is what we all want, right? You also want to get education, you also want to get electricity, and also want to get uh, a good lifestyle, a standard lifestyle, right? So this is the poet what is saying, that the common people are there beneath all uniforms. So we do not fight with each other because we all are same, we all want the same. Okay, now like ours means as we have the common people, in the same way they also have the common people, they also have the same body as the body we have. The land our brothers walk upon is earth like this, in which we all shall lie. See, he says that this is the land on which our brother walks upon. As we walk on this earth, in the similar way, our brothers, who is the brothers here? The foreign people whom we consider our enemy, they also walk upon the same earth. And in the here, in which we all shall lie, in this line, he says that when the time comes for the death, at that time we all are buried in the same soil, on the same earth. So how can we different? How can we be? You can say that we are different. So in the first stanza, what we say, the poet is talking about universal equality, that all the people on this earth are equal. And for this, he has used here the metaphor beneath all uniforms, a single body breathes. And he also presented one more thing in this stanza, that just like we walk upon on this earth, in the similar way our brothers, means the foreign people, also walk upon this earth. And when we die, we are buried in this soil. In the similar way, when they uh, die, they also are buried in the similar soil, on the same earth. So the first stanza is all about the universal equality. I hope you got that. Now coming to the next stanza, this is the second stanza. They too aware of sun and air and water. See, in this sentence, what you see, that the poet is saying that the way that we are aware of sun, air, and water, in the similar way, they also are aware of sun, air, and water. They also get the sunlight. They also breathe the air like us. They also drink water like us. So how can we both be distinguished? How can we both be different? No, we all are similar because we are under the same sunlight, we breathe the same air, we drink the same water, and are fed by peaceful harvests, while war's long winter stopped. From this line, the poet want to say that when there is peace in the world, we do farming and we grow crops, and when the crops are grown, we eat them, we take them as food. Okay, see, you have to underline this line. This line is very important. There is a poetic devices used in this line, basically two poetic devices I will discuss in poetic devices section. Okay, you have to underline it, that are fed by peaceful harvest, by war's long winter stopped. See, it means that when there is peace in the world, poet has seen that when there is peace in the world, what people do? People do farming, they grow crops, and that crop is very means that is the crop that is eaten by the people. That is the food. But when there is a war, it is the destruction. This destruction is like the same, the destruction which is caused by long winter. See, as I told you before, that James Kirkup is from England. Okay, so in England, you must have read in French Revolution chapter that in Europe, what happens that when long winters come, when there is extreme cold, the food fails, the food is destroyed by the extreme cold, and at that time there is the shortage of food. You have seen in the French Revolution chapter that Europe is facing so many food scarcity, shortage of food. So poet here compares the long winters devastation, long winters how the long winter destroys the food with the war. That in the same way, war also uh, makes destruction. War also makes destruction like the long winter. I will give you a current example of this. You must have seen that how Russia and Ukraine are fighting nowadays, right? And due to this, there is a huge shortage of food in all over the world, and there you can see the inflation also, and the price of everything, oil, petrol, everything has gone up, right? So when there is war, the poet is saying that when there is war, the people even do not get the proper food because war destroys everything. Okay, now coming to the next line, their hands are ours and in their lines we read. See, the poet says that uh, as we have the hand, in the similar way they also have their hand. Our hands and their hands, these all the hands are same because every hands has line, every hands have lines. See, we our hands have some line, right? In the similar way their hands also have some lines, and in that lines what the poet reads that the this line says that a labor not different from our own. It means they also work for their livelihood, for livelihood. Okay, in the similar way that we work. Why do we work? We work to get food. In the similar way, they also work to get food, to feed their children, to get uh, a proper lifestyle. So their hands are ours, means both the hands, our hands and their hands, both are similar. Why both the hands are similar? Because our hands also work for earning some livelihood, and their hands also work because they also want to earn some livelihood. So in the second stanza, what we see? We see that the poet is talking about the impact of war, especially the second sentence, that if there will be war, what will happen? First stanza talks about universal equality, second stanza talks about the impact of war. Now coming to the third stanza, this is the third stanza. Remember, they have eyes like ours that wake or sleep. Before I give you the explanation, I want you to recall the background of the poem which I told you in the starting. See, in the background, I told you that there was the colonial power which was based on racial superiority. Means they consider that white people are more superior than the blacks and browns. That is why they were ruling in countries like Africa and India. Okay, so that is why the poet makes a point that remember, poet asks the people that remember, they have eyes like ours. See, they also have like means the foreign people, they also have the eyes like ours that wake or sleep. It means that they sleep at night and they wake up in the morning. Although the color of the eyes can be different, okay, the looks can be different. Some people can be white, some people can be black, some can be brown, okay, but the main point is here that every person has eyes, every person has hands, okay, they all breathe the air. Okay, so how can we make distinguish between all these people? They all are same. Why? In the second line it becomes more clear that and a strength that can be won by love. See, poet says that every person on this earth can be born by the love. So how can you say that some are more superior, some are not superior, some are less superior? You cannot say that because every people can be born by love. In every hand, sorry, in every land is common life. See, here every land symbolizes the nation. It means in every nation, in every country, there is a common life that we can recognize and understand. See, the life in US is the same as the life in India. The American people also wakes up in the morning. They wake up in the morning. They go to the work. They go to the work in office. Then again they return to the home, and then they have dinner, and then they go to the bed. In the similar way, Indian people are having also the same life. The Indian people also wake up in the morning. They go to the work. They work for whole day, and then they return home and then have dinner and they get sleep. So there is a common life in every country. So we cannot distinguish anyone. So this was the third stanza. Now coming to the fourth stanza. In the fourth stanza, again the poet is saying that let us remember whenever we are told. See, see, the poet uses remember every time. Why? Because he wants us to remind every time that we are forgetting something, that we all are from the same race. We are a human race. He's talking about humanity. We all are human beings. So poet wants all of us to remember always that whenever we are told what we are told, whenever we are told to hate our brothers. Suppose someone says that fight with your brothers here symbolizes the foreign country. If someone says that fight with the foreign country, it means if we will fight with the foreign countries, we will destroy ourselves. Why? Because poet says that it is ourselves that we shall disposes. We will what we dispose means to get separated. Okay, so this is us who will get separated because they are just like brothers. Suppose anyone comes to you and says that fight with Chinese people. So what you will think, if you will go and fight with Chinese people, what will happen? You will get separated with Chinese because they are brothers, they are like brothers. So if you will fight with them, you will get separated, and once you will get separated, you will betray the brotherhood, you will betray the bond of love between Indians and Chinese. Okay, and at the end you will condemn, you will feel guilty, you will regret that why you have done this, why you have raised the weapon, why you have why you have uh, come to why you have done this. So you will, at the end you will condemn, you will feel guilty. That is why the poet says that remember, we who take arms against each other, means he wants us to remember, especially the army person. He wants the army person to remember that if we will fight, what will we will do? We will get separated with the from the brothers. We will betray our brotherhoods, and we will then regret that why we have done this. Because when there will be war, when there will be fight, it will impact in the whole world, and there will be in the second stanza you have seen that there will be so many problems with the war. Okay, so that is why the poet always says that remember, always uses the word remember. In this poem, poet has used at least 5 times the word remember. Okay, see, I'm here giving you the example of China and India just to make you understand. Okay, this is not I am not saying that we should not uh, fight with China if they are crossing our borders, if they are making problems in our borders. That is the different thing. Okay, but here the poet is want to say see this, and I am just giving you an example. You have to understand it. Okay. So you have to remember that when there is border incursion between India and China, that is different thing. Okay, and taking arms against one country is different thing. But here the poet is trying to spread the message of love and peace. Okay, so I'm just interpreting the poem. Do not take it seriously that someone is saying that do not fight with our enemy. No, no, it is not like that. If there is border incursion, if any army personnel is crossing the border and they are making a dispute, then that is a different thing. Okay, and that is also said by the poet in the next stanza. You can see here that it is the human earth that we defile, that he says that it is human means it is us who are making the earth polluted. And how we are making this earth polluted? We are making this earth polluted by the wars, because in the wars what is there? What there is the fire, there is the dust, okay, and of air that is everywhere our own. It means that the air that we breathe, in that air uh, there is that air is polluted by the dust and the fire of the weapons and the ammunitions that has been used in the wars. That is why the poet always asks us that remember, no men are foreign and no country is strange. Okay, so this was the explanation of this poem. I think that you have got some ideas about the poem. Okay, so now coming to the themes of this poem. See, as I told you before that this poem is talking about, this poem has some element about global equality. You can see in the first stanza only that how the poet is trying to make a point that there is universal equality. Every people, among every uniform, there is a single body that breathes. So this is the uh, theme of global equality. Now it has also some elements of brotherhood. Brotherhood, how? Because poet has used the word brother in the third stanza, if I am not wrong, uh, the word brother for the foreign country, and the poet says that the foreign country, the people of foreign countries, the strangers, they are like brother. And the poet has tried to give the message of love and peace through this poem. And there is also uh, the element of commonness, that every people is common on this earth and they are not bound to single, or you can say up to a particular geographical area. Every person has every person belongs to the whole world. We all belong to this earth, not from we do not belong to India only. We all belong to this whole world, to this earth. We all belong to this earth. So this is the message that the poet is trying to give from this poem. Now moving on, coming to the poetic devices, here I have given you the first stanza of this poem in this red color, and here is the poetic devices which have been used. The first poetic devices that we can see here is alliteration. Here it is written body breaths. In this you can see that BB, both letter has been repeated more than once. So this is an example of alliteration. Coming to the next here, body, sorry, beneath all uniforms. As I told you before in the uh, explanation only, that there is a metaphor. Uniform here is that indirectly compared with the army uniforms, with the military personnel. Okay, and the next poetic device is enjambment. Enjambment is the poetic devices that is the continuation of sentence without comma and full stop. You can see that in the second and third line there is no full stop, there is no comma, and there is the continuation of the sentence. So we can say that in the first stanza there are three poetic devices: alliteration, metaphor, and enjambment. Okay, good. Now coming to the second stanza. Here in the second stanza there is the poetic device alliteration. Alliteration is here. You can see that winter and war. Right here the W letter has been repeated more than once. Okay, so this is the meta alliteration, because alliteration is when there is a repetition of letter of two closely placed words. Okay, so this is the alliteration. Now there is a metaphor. Here you can see that war's long winter stopped. So long winter stopped is indirectly compared to the war time. So this is the metaphor. Okay, and there is enjambment. Enjambment is where you can see that there is no there is a continuation of line in the third line. Okay, in the third line there is no full stop, no comma. Okay, so this is the enjambment. Now there is a new it may be new to someone, that transferred epithet. See, transferred epithet means here you can see that peaceful harvest. So peaceful is written here, this is adjective, and it is written here not for the harvest but for the peaceful society, that when there is peaceful society, then there is the harvest, there is a good harvest. So it is the transferred epithet. There is one, it may also be new for someone, that police in return. Why? Because in this you can see the conjunction and. Here you can see in the first line also only that sun and air and water. So and has been used repeatedly. So this is called policy in retro. Okay. Now moving on to the third stanza. In the third stanza there is only one poetic devices. One poetic device, that is enjambment. You can see that there is a continuation of the sentence from the starting sentence only to the last. There is no full stop and comma, and it can be observed throughout the stanza. Okay, now moving on to the fourth stanza. Here you can see repetition of the word remember. See, remember word has been used in the first line and you can see the last line here. Okay, so this is the repetition of the word. Then there is enjambment. Enjambment, as I told you before, that continuation of lines. Okay, moving on. In the fifth and the last stanza, we see that there is only enjambment. Enjambment means continuation of line. You can see that the second line is continued to the third line. Okay, so this is the enjambment. So here ends the video. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please subscribe to Elective Classes. Keep learning.